Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Sports 101 podcast. On today's edition of the Sports 101 podcast, we have a bunch of stuff to get into. One of the things that we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA deciding to cancel all games yesterday. The MLB canceled games yesterday. The soccer was canceled yesterday. The NHL is the only one that played all the games that it had, which were 2 games, and they were played, and the NHL was under fire. Today we'll talk about that, and also we'll talk about the Washington football team and Dan Snyder and the head coach, and the Washington Post. The article that the Washington Post released was a big story, and it's still being talked about, and we don't know what's going to happen. But as I said on yesterday's podcast, I think this is going to end up being a problem for Dan Snyder and the Washington football team. We'll get into that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking. It's always appreciated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on any other platform. Please don't forget to go ahead and hit that follow button if you like what you're listening to. So, as we get into today's show, I want to start with the NBA, and the NBA was a big story today. And the Milwaukee Bucks have decided to not play their games yesterday. The NBA had a meeting today and last night, and they decided to continue playing after one day off, and I get it. You want to go back to the games, you want to finish the season and everything, but I have a question to the NBA. As it is, the NBA is losing viewership, okay? Golf is being watched more than ever. Golf, which I think is a boring sport. I'm not saying what they are doing is bad. I'm not saying them deciding not to play because of what happened, which was, by the way, wrong. To shoot somebody 7 times no matter what, that's wrong. I'm not saying the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA deciding not to play yesterday is bad. But what I'm saying is, if you're the NBA and if you're the commissioner of the NBA, you got to understand you have done everything possible to make sure that the players were heard. You have done everything you can possibly do to make sure that what the players have to say is being heard. You not only let them protest by not standing for the anthem, and I think that's your right if that's what you want to do. But you also let them wear Black Lives Matter shirt. You wrote Black Lives Matter on every single gym, in every single gym that they play at. Literally, there is at the end of the court a Black Lives Matter sign. That's great. But at what point, even if you're a player, at what point are you gonna be like, this is enough? We have made our voice heard. If you're the NBA right now, what you have to realize is you're going to have to sit with the players and talk to them and ask them, what can we do? Okay? If you're a NBA franchise owner, I think the NBA franchise owners gave money to a bunch of a bunch of pro-black, companies and pro-black colleges and all that. That's great. And if you're an NBA player, the good thing is you're going back to play the game, and that's how you can make your biggest impact. If you don't play, nobody sees you. If you don't play, you don't have the platform that you would have if you were playing. So the fact that they are going back to playing basketball, and the fact that they're resuming the games is a good thing, because I think the players realize, okay, the only person in basketball who really does not need basketball is LeBron James. If LeBron James leaves basketball, he will still be heard. People will still listen to him. He's the biggest basketball player of our time. Okay? So if you are not LeBron James, you realize you need the platform. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the NBA and the players have had meetings, and have had meetings yesterday and today, and have decided to go back to playing the games, go back to playing basketball. And the one thing, I think, if you're a sports medium, and if you're a player, you got to realize that some people are not going to be happy with you. Some people are going to hate the fact that you're not going to play, the fact that you're not going to play football, the fact that you're not going to play basketball, the fact that soccer players are deciding not to play. MLB canceled the game that was scheduled for today between the Nationals and the Philadelphia Phillies. That was supposed to start at 6:05 p.m. The Nationals earlier today decided not to have the game, so that was not played. So you're going to have some people that are going to be mad and pissed off at you. But I think the fact that the players are saying that they don't care is a good thing. I think we have got to the point where the players are saying, look, we don't care. We don't care if you like the fact that we are not going to play. We don't care if you like the fact that we're talking about the police, the fact that we're playing, the fact that we're talking about the police needs to change, the way that they do things needs to change. We don't care. We have a platform to make a change, and that's exactly what we're going to do. That's a good thing, if you ask me. And on yesterday on TNT, one of the people who work for TNT, who are on the kickoff show before the game starts, he walked out. He's a former player. He walked out. He said he have to stand with the players, and he walked right out. This is what happened.
In protest of racial injustice in this country. Their boycott in Orlando, a direct result of a shooting which took place in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 40 miles from Milwaukee, where on Sunday, 29-year-old Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back. Players and coaches have been vocal in voicing their outrage and disgust, and today made a resounding and unified statement by refusing to take the court. We welcome you to this special edition of Inside the NBA. Ernie Johnson and Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley. Wow, with every passing day. And I know you just were on CNN with Wolf. I was on there at 5 o'clock with him, and we were talking about this. And I was saying there are these moments that have happened in my 30 years in this chair. I remember Magic and his announcement about HIV, 91. Remember Adam Silver in 2014. addressing the Donald Sterling situation with the Clippers and saying that I am banning him for life, and how impactful that was at that moment. And then today, no podium involved, simply we're not going to take the floor. So, Kenny, Shaq, Chuck, as we wait for the Bucks to make a statement, which should happen any time now.
Well, I don't think we could be shocked. I think when some of the guys started talking about it the day before, that started the fire. And then the Milwaukee Bucks, who happened to lead off today, because if the Bucks hadn't canceled, I don't think anybody else would have canceled. And they should have told the Orlando Magic, too. That's the only part I don't like about what they did. Because the Magic were warming up, getting ready for the game. They should have gave them a heads up. But I think it's appropriate that the Milwaukee Bucks did it, because it happened in their home state.
40 miles from
there. And then I think you had to cancel the games tonight after the Bucks did not play. Now I think you got a couple questions. You probably got to cancel the games tomorrow also. To let those are different set of teams. You got to let these guys know you're standing with them. So you probably got to cancel the games tomorrow. My question is, what is the game plan after that?
My buddy Brian Anderson, by the way, fellow TNT broadcaster, but also does Milwaukee Brewers baseball, notified me too. The Milwaukee Brewers canceled their game with the Cincinnati Reds tonight. So that situation in Milwaukee, again, 40 miles from Kenosha. Kenny?
This is tough. I mean, right now my head is like ready to explode, like just in the thoughts of what's going on. And I don't know if I'm even appropriate enough to say it, what the players are feeling and how they're feeling. And I haven't talked to any of the players. I'm just like coming in, even like driving here and getting into the studio, hearing calls and people talking. And for me, I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight. And figure out what happens after that.
Of the studio. And this is what the Milwaukee Bucks said in their statement yesterday.
As you can see, we all thank you guys for taking kind of your time to stay here with us. We're sorry that it took a little bit more time, but we thought it would be best for us as a team to brainstorm a little bit, educate ourselves, and not rush into having raw emotion, giving you guys things like that. So on behalf of ourselves and our team, we're going to place a statement as a team today and go back and continue to educate ourselves and get better awareness of what's going on, and then speak to you guys later. So we're going to come up with a statement now.
The team statement. The past 4 months have shed a light on the ongoing racial injustices facing our African American community. Citizens around the country have used their voices and platforms to speak out against these wrongdoings. Over the last few days in our home state of Wisconsin, we've seen the horrendous video of Jacob Blake being shot in the back 7 times by a police officer in Kenosha, and the additional shooting of protesters. Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action. So our focus today cannot be on basketball.
When we take the court and represent Milwaukee and Wisconsin, we are expected to play at a high level, give maximum effort, and hold each other accountable. We hold ourselves to that standard, and in this moment, we are demanding the same from lawmakers and law enforcement. We are calling for justice for Jacob Blake and demand the officers be held accountable. For this to occur, it is imperative for the Wisconsin State Legislature to reconvene after months of inaction and take up meaningful measures to address issues of police accountability, brutality, and criminal justice reform. We encourage all citizens to educate themselves, take peaceful and responsible action, and remember to vote on November 3rd on behalf of the Milwaukee Bucks. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys had to finish.
A Buck statement read by Sterling Brown and George Hill. And this statement came...
As you can see, we all thank you guys.
So that was the statement that the Milwaukee Bucks released yesterday before the game. They didn't let the team that they were playing know. That was a bad thing for me, if you ask me. But this is the statement that they gave after they decided not to play the game yesterday. The NBA and the players, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, are resuming their games and are deciding to play the playoff games, and finishing the season out. Now, the other question that you have to ask is, the NFL is going to start in 2 weeks. The regular season of the NFL is going to start in 2 weeks. We have to ask ourselves, is the same thing going to happen in the NFL? Are teams going to say, look, we're not going to play because of what happened? There are teams that canceled practice today. There are teams that didn't practice today because of what happened. Because of the individual who was shot 7 times and now can't walk, is paralyzed. And Stephen Jones, on today, he was asked on 105.3 The Fan, on his radio show, was asked the question, what are you going to do? Have you heard of what happened? Have you heard of what the NBA, what the MLB, and Major League Soccer are doing? And this is what he said.
It's time now for our weekly conversation with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones right here on your home of the Cowboys. And a good afternoon, sir. How the heck are you?
Good afternoon. We're all just hanging in here, trying to focus on football.
Man, 2.5 weeks away now. I guess 2 weeks from tonight we have the opener, so it's close enough now that you can see it on the horizon. That's pretty exciting.
Well, it's unbelievable that it's that close. I mean, it just feels like it's been an unbelievable journey, which it has been, to get this close and to get to this point. And I know the players are starting to get to that point. I was talking to Coach McCarthy today, and he said you're starting to get to that point in camp where they're tired of going against one another. They're ready to, see some different colored jerseys. So certainly, as you said, they're going to get through that sooner than later.
So have you guys talked about what happened across pro sports last night and into today? Hockey, baseball, the NBA, MLS, boycotting games, and what's your reaction to that, Stephen?
Well, it's you're certainly aware of it. I mean, we're obviously tremendous sports fans, and what's going on out there is just unprecedented these times. All the challenges that we have, continue to pop up, whether, as we all know, the pandemic, whether it's the forest fires in California, the hurricanes in the Gulf, and then, of course, this tremendous challenge we have with social injustice. Certainly, my heartfelt prayers go out to the Blake family and Jacob Blake, and, that's just so disturbing and difficult to see this happen. And, we don't have answers. You're not going to have answers overnight, but, we certainly have respect for, the decisions leagues make, organizations make. They're all different. They're all made up differently. And, certainly everybody's doing what they feel is the right thing to do to, this has to stop at some point, and we've got to certainly bring the awareness of what's going on to the forefront.
Was there any talk of canceling today's practice?
No, with our schedule, we get started early around here, and no thought on that I was aware of.
Stephen Jones here with you on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Okay, on to the practices and what's been going on there, Stephen. CeeDee Lamb, we threw a party when you guys picked him live on the air, and it was a lot of fun. And some people worried about a rookie learning curve at wide receiver and things like that. When you're looking at him practice, does that look like a rookie?
No, not at all. He's obviously as excited as we all were when he was sitting there and we were able to select him. I think he's exceeded all expectations. He's got, I think, rare football IQ. It just comes so natural to him, whether it's his route running and his feel for the game, whether it's catching the ball, whether it's his, ability to accelerate after the catch. Everything just seems to click with him. And I know certainly his teammates have enjoyed him. He's super, super competitive, works super hard, and I just can't say enough nice things about him. It's just we're so fortunate, that he ended up being there for us, and I think he's going to make a big, big difference in our offensive football team, and for that matter, even special teams. It's not going to surprise me to see him back there potentially helping in the return game as well.
Stephen, when it's so unusual right now that you have your scouts, there are no games to evaluate, and I know you're one of these guys. You always talk about player personnel as a 24/7 job, and so how difficult is it for your planning for potential for not only your own cuts, but maybe looking at some other rosters and stuff? You always like to churn the bottom of your roster and bring guys in. How difficult is that going to be going forward now that you don't have a real view of these teams and these players?
Well, you can't change what you don't have, Brian. It is what it is, and we're not going to have any updated tape on these guys other than what we had in college and how we put up our boards. So, I think under Will's leadership, he's really working our scouting department to really go back in and really study the players again in terms of who might come available and kind of where we had them ranked, and the guys that we may have had close calls on in college free agency, or guys that we liked in the draft that got picked in front of us. I mean, those are all be the exercises that we have to do, because as you can't change anything about not having any tape on them. So we'll certainly we'll unturn every stone of just making sure, when these players come up, that we've done our homework.
I saw the Bills GM saying they basically have their pro scouts assigned to track what beat writers are saying and the news that comes out of practice on if players have good days or not. Do you guys count on sort of relationships either with your scouts or with you guys with other teams to try to get a feel for what's going on in other camps?
Yeah, you use everything. I mean, that's, certainly, media, y'all have done a great job of really knowing the game, and you certainly pay attention to some of that in terms of what's being said about other players, and then in this business, you can get information, by being out there and having conversations with their counterparts on other teams. So, for instance, have told our guys to be extra careful about the information that they're sharing, because they're not going to have tape on these guys, and the last thing they're going to have seen is what they had available to them on their college tape when you talk about these first-year players. Now, obviously, there'll be players that have been in the league that have been in for a year, been on a practice squad, those type of things that we'll certainly have to refresh on as well. But I've got all the confidence in the world. Will understands what's going on here, just like he did the draft. No, you can't do anything about it, so you come up with all your techniques to be as good as you possibly can be in terms of evaluating players that might be available to us when we cut down to 53.
Stephen, I'm going to ask you a question about Jerry, and we're so fortunate to have both you and your father on the station weekly, and we appreciate that. But there appears to be a really strong resolve with him right now about this season and going forward with the season and fighting through things. Is this something that is you've seen even more passion from him this season about with all the things going on, or is this something that you just normally you expect from Jerry?
this is Jerry. I mean, this is him at his finest. When you have you have adversity, you have challenges. That's what he's always taught me. That's when you find out who your best people are. And, he certainly is very accepting of the challenge and, wants to make the most of it. And the only way to do that is, hit it head on and then get creative about how we're going to get through this aspect of it. There's going to, be things that you can't change. And, his mantra with us is to put even more pressure on the organization to be better. And we got to be better for our fans. We got to be more creative for our fans. We got to be better for our staff, our players, our employees. We've got to be at our best in these unprecedented times. As I mentioned when we started the show, everybody has challenges, both at work, at home, all the things that people are having to deal with, and we want to do everything and anything we can to be the very best we can in these challenging times.
Okay, has everything and anything this week up to this point involved a conversation with Earl Thomas or his people?
Well, we don't comment on things like that. We found that it probably works better not to say anything till either it's not a point anymore, or we have him like Everson Griffin wearing a cowboy helmet. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pass on responding to that one.
It sure did sound like Jerry was maybe fishing around to get him to call or something on Monday, so I just thought I'd check in there, Stephen.
Well, I missed that conversation, so I'll take you at your word.
All right.
Now, Stephen, I've heard different players kicking around the idea of 3,000-yard receivers on this team. Now, none of that matters. All we care about is wins, but I'm wondering, why aren't we giving Blake Jarwin his proper respect and saying 4,000-yard pass catchers?
Well, I'm right there with you. I think Blake Jarwin has had an amazing camp, and obviously he's one of my all-time. He's right there, top handful of all-time favorite Cowboys is Jason Witten. But it was hard to be a tight end in this organization when 82 was around, and certainly he's getting to spread his wings now, and whether it's Coach McCarthy, the offensive staff, his teammates, he keeps showing up out there. I don't know how much you guys have been able to get out to see any of the practices, but he's really coming into his own, and nothing would surprise me with him in terms of what his production could be this year, and he just keeps getting better. His rapport with Dak's outstanding, and I really think he's got a chance to be to step right in there and be a really good, if not great, tight end for us.
Stephen, is there something you've learned about Mike McCarthy that you didn't know about him going into this?
Well, you learn a lot. I mean, when you're around people, the biggest thing with Mike is he's just a ball coach. He's just has such respect. He's very transparent. He's very genuine. I see it in our players' eyes how much respect they have for him. Obviously, when you look at his career, what he's been able to accomplish as a Super Bowl champion, been to multiple championship games. He's got the skins on the wall, but yet when you see him coach, when you see him lead this team, you know why he's had success. And I just think even in these times like this, the way he's interacted with our players and obviously are very challenging for the individuals on this football team and staff members and things that they're going through. He's just got a great feel for, I think, what this team needs. And, it's even better than I would have ever dreamed it would be. And I just think he could, at the end of the day, you talk about all the good players we have, but his leadership as the head coach could, be a huge difference maker in terms of us taking the next step.
Well, that sounds wonderful, Stephen. I have just one question left here. That this week the commissioner said the NFL was wrong for not listening to Colin Kaepernick and other players earlier. Do you guys agree with that?
I'm not going to comment on that at this point. I mean, obviously I have respect for what everybody has to say about any of these situations. Everybody has their own way of getting their hands around it. It's obviously a big challenge, and As I said, every organization, every office, every place looks at it a little different, including whether you're the NFL or you're an individual club. Everybody has their views on different things. So certainly have respect for everybody's opinions and views, but probably as far as I'd go with that.
Well, we appreciate you answering our questions, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thank you.
As you can see, we all thank you guys for taking your time.
That was Stephen Jones on 105.3 The Fan. As you guys heard, Stephen Jones is trying to dodge the questions. He is not answering the questions when it comes to this kind of situation because it's the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones dodge this kind of questions. They do not want to involve themselves. But we'll see what's going to happen when the NFL season comes back. We'll see what's going to happen when players are asking to kneel, when players are asking to do something. We'll see what the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, and Stephen Jones will say and do at that time. Before I get into another topic for this podcast, I want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the expectations that we have for them this season. With CeeDee Lamb, of course, he's not going to look like a new player, a rookie, because if you just watched his tape in college, he looks like an NFL player. He is not a typical rookie. He, I think, could be the spark that we need at the offense. I think he's going to be a problem for defenses. He's going to be a problem for linebackers, corners. He's just going to be wonderful to watch. The other thing is the tight end position. Tight end position right now the new guys, the young guys, when 82 was there, didn't get the time and the practice that they need, the snaps that they need. But now, with number 82 with the Raiders, with Jason Witten with the Raiders, and him not being with the Dallas Cowboys, the other new guys, the other young guys can get some kind of snaps and could get themselves better, could do good things. We've seen what these young guys could do when Jason Witten retired and went to ESPN. So, me as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'm excited for the season. So now, I want to get into the Washington Redskins, or the Washington football team. You can call them whatever you want. And their problems. The Washington Post came out with an article yesterday talking about the owner and his involvement with the sexual assault problem, the sexual assault allegation, and the culture problem that exists in Washington. And on 106.7 The Fan today, one of the people that represent the cheerleaders spoke on 106.7 The Fan today and said basically, if we want the tape to come out and if we want the Washington Post to give us the tape, we're going to have to sue. We're going to have to sue the Redskins. We're going to have to sue the owner, basically, to get the video. This is the full interview.
were involved in this terrible cheerleading scandal for the Washington Redskins.
A lot of what Brittany and I'm assuming the other cheerleaders are specifically upset about is this video, which purportedly is kind of a behind-the-scenes video with some nudity. Do you have the video?
I don't have the video. I'm getting this all from the Washington Post, and also my clients are very, very upset about this. I mean, these were vulnerable, beautiful, talented young women, and they never gave their authorization or consent to have their intimate parts filmed for anybody to see.
Right. Yeah, there's no question about that. How do you go about getting the video? Like, do you issue like try to get a subpoena, or would like Washington Post give you a copy? How does that work to try to?
The only way that we can get it is, you're correct, if the Washington Post gave us a copy, and I don't think they're giving anybody copies. But in addition, if we filed a lawsuit, then they would have to turn over a copy. But also voluntarily, in the event that the Washington Post or owner or anyone else who may have it, if they have it, they could voluntarily provide it to us.
Right. So are all of the women that you're representing with this particular, with Dan and everything, are they all about the calendar and that sort of thing and the shoot? Like, I don't know what year it was, 2008, maybe there was another one in 2010?
2010.
Are there other grievances that they have?
Well, right now what they're focused on is this shoot, the swimsuit calendar, which they were very excited to be part of and to be selected for. It was an honor to be chosen. Not everybody was going to be in it.
Right.
And this is shocking some years later, and it is just revolting and upsetting to them to think that, if it's true, that anybody was sitting there, looking at their private parts, whether it's their nipples or their genital area or any other area, and somehow, enjoying it, looking at it for the, being lascivious and who knows, perhaps for their own sexual arousal, if in fact this happened. It's just revolting. The idea that it's reported that, supposedly somebody wanted to call to see, quote, the good bits or the good parts, which is what the Washington Post article says, that someone called these parts of the women. It's really revolting and upsetting to them, especially all these years later, to now just learn of it. They don't know how many people may have viewed this, if anybody did, what happened when they viewed it, why they viewed it, how they came into possession of it. It's just really, can you imagine if it were your daughter, how upset she would be?
No. Talking to famed attorney Gloria Allred, who represents Brittany Abel and 3 other cheerleaders as part of this scandal. I don't know how much you're aware of kind of what, this was reported about years ago, that not only was there, the tape part is the video, but there were reports of the trip to the Dominican Republic and supposedly top sponsors of the team kind of being brought around to peek in on what was happening behind the scenes. How much are you aware of that?
Right, to peek in, reportedly as they were undergoing this calendar shoot on the beach, Beach Beauties is what it was called. The idea that women are just being treated literally as sexual objects is, and the others could view almost kind of like a peeping Tom type of situation, is just very disturbing. That somehow they're not there, obviously, these guys, to see a football game. They're there to, for their own sexual gratification. They're paying more for this. They're not just, sitting there to be for somebody's sexual pleasure. And for many of them, for many years, they wanted to be a Washington cheerleader. I have one client who, from the time she was 8 years old, she dreamed of being a Washington Redskins cheerleader. And what a terrible memory now to attach to what otherwise, for some of them, was a very positive memory of being selected for the team and cheering for the team.
Miss Allred, are there different hurdles for you legally dealing with a private enterprise like the Washington football team as opposed to if these women work for a public company?
Well, we are the leading and most successful women's rights law firm in the nation. I've been doing this for 44 years. We've won hundreds of millions of dollars for victims. These women are victims. And we're going to do whatever we think is legally appropriate to vindicate our clients' rights. They're very brave. Some of them in the future will be speaking out if they think it's appropriate to do so. And, these are empowered young women, and they're just not going to sit there and be humiliated and degraded in this way. So, we know what we have to do, and we're going to fight to do it because this has to be, they have to be vindicated, all this. First of all, we have to find out what really happened. Secondly, we have to find out who's responsible. Third, these women have been harmed, and we believe we can prove it. And fourth, the best way is to hold whoever's responsible accountable in whatever manner is appropriate. And that's what we're going to do. Accountability is what it's all about. This is the era of the Me Too movement, and these women are just not going to sit back and just be victims. They're going to be fighters for change. They don't want this to happen to any other young woman ever.
Right. What about non-disclosure agreements that we keep hearing that a bunch of former employees are forced to sign? Do any of your clients have those, and how much do those hold up?
You mean NDAs from the Washington Redskins?
Yes.
Well, all I can say is this is a public story at this point. And, all I can, if the Washington Redskins, want to try to silence these young women, then the Washington Redskins and I are going to have a conversation because they should not have to be silenced about discrimination or harassment or invasion of privacy if, in fact, that's what what occurred, because this is not what they signed up for.
So now, it sounds like, Miss Allred, you're in the kind of the fact-finding portion of your job.
Yes, we are.
Do you think it'll be difficult to tie this to the owner?
Well, again, I don't, I don't want to just go by a Washington Post article, as good as it is, and it seems very, very well researched. We want to hear the other side. We want to hear from, Mr. Snyder. We want to hear from any other executives of the team. We want to hear from other employees who might have information about how this could have occurred, if it did occur, who viewed it. We have to judge credibility. We have to look for corroboration. So, we do have fact-finding to do, and then that's important because, we want the truth. Where these young women are entitled to the truth, and we intend to get it.
Ms. Allred, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Appreciate it.
So what you just heard was an interview on 106.7 The Fan in Washington, which is a sports radio show. Now, let me say this much, okay? This is going to go on for weeks. This is going to go on for months. I think this is going to go on beyond this season. And I think this is going to end up in court. Because as you just heard, they're going to have to sue. The Washington Post is not going to give the tape up. They're not. And the fact is, the Washington football team has problems. But now, those problems are out. The Washington football team owner had people, maybe himself, do some bad things. And this, as I said on yesterday's podcast, is going to end up at the commissioner's office, and the commissioner is going to have to deal with this. Is going to have to either force Dan Snyder to sell the team or fine Dan Snyder some money. And on the interview, she said we're going to listen to what Dan Snyder have to say. Look, if you're going to ask Dan Snyder about this, Dan Snyder is going to say, I don't have anything to do with this. I don't know nothing about this. Dan Snyder already spoke out about this. What Dan Snyder said was, I'm going to fix the culture. But now, we know that Dan Snyder was the problem, according to Washington Post article. And the Washington Post does not publish a story like this not knowing the fact. The Washington Post did its homework. So if you're going to ask Dan Snyder about this, I assure you Dan Snyder is going to say, I don't have anything to do with this. The last topic I want to talk about is the Washington football team coach, Ron Rivera. What does Ron Rivera have to do after this? Look, Ron Rivera already had a health scare. He's 57, I believe, and he had a health scare, and he has to deal with a team, football-wise, a team that sucks, a team that's not good, a team that has been in the basement for years. And not only he has to deal with that, but now he has to deal with the owner and the sexual assault and the culture issue. And this article that the Washington Post released, trust me, all season long, if this story is not finished or if this issue is not dealt with before the season, the team is going to be asked about it. Ron Rivera is going to be asked about it. And I'm sure he's already asked about it. I'm sure he already had to talk about it. So if I'm Ron Rivera, I'll resign now because I don't want to deal with this. I already have had a health issue and a health scare, and I don't want to deal with it. So if I am the head coach of the Washington football team, Ron Rivera, I'll resign. That's my take on this issue. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking. It's always appreciated. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the podcast. We will be back with another edition of the Sports 101 podcast tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking.